This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine. What's going on, y'all? It's your girl, Mary B, and this is another podcast of Something's Gotta Give. And might I say that I have succumbed to the circumstances of being human. I really cannot stand how in today's world, being an artist is tied to a formula of success. When you get to the stage in your creative expression that you are ready to release to the world. So that means for me, podcasting, I have to be consistently putting out content, whether it be dropping an episode weekly and then following up with social media clips, etc. There is a job, a formula for me to follow for this to be quote unquote successful to this line of work, essentially. And unfortunately, I am human and I suffer from depression and I have been in a very dark hole. My last episode, I talked about my fourth grade inner child, and I mentioned in that episode that I've been struggling with this since February. And oftentimes when problems arise, it's much deeper than we know, than we realize. And after months of this little inner child popping up, I'm noticing this is actually a huge well. And I have to tend to it. And through visiting this version of me multiple times, it's been concluded in therapy that I have to revisit EMDR. If you are a consistent listener in my podcast, that is eye movement dissociation and reprocessing. And the purpose of that form of therapy is to confront very traumatic experiences. Now, I am the only person I have known to go through EMDR. Not only have I had to go through it once with my sexual abuse, I have to do it yet again for this inner child that keeps popping up. And within that last episode, I did not realize that I was not kind to my inner child. I said that I wanted to express my truth and the hurt that I experienced throughout those years. But I found myself instead acting like the adults that I had around me. And that looked like, I'm here in this day. I look like this now. So everything that happened before is okay. And I'm mirroring what I see, what I seen back then and what I see now. Because if you go on social media, you don't have a lot of people being raw and vulnerable about the reality of what they went through. I don't really have many friends or peers that can tap into the story of what happened to them. Instead, we just watch videos of motivation and read books of inspiration and how to get through. And all of those are very vital. But it is also vital to acknowledge what happened in the first place. Oftentimes, we can feel so validated just from hearing the truth of a story. And subconsciously, I was hushing my inner child with my own podcast. And I shortened my story. 17 minutes of expressing what happened to me in just that year is not even close to enough time to really say what happened and to allow that emotion to process, to allow myself to feel like, oh, I was so good in my art that day. And last week I wanted to do a follow-up episode because I knew, let's be kinder to ourselves. Let's express what I really wanted to express, what my inner child really wanted to express. And this is still a growing relationship with myself, with a version of myself, right? But I was depressed. Oh, man. Then I started going into this narrative of being lethargic, being incapable, feeling like, what's the point anyways? Who wants to hear this? I don't care if anybody wants to hear it. It's for me, right? That's what art is supposed to be like. But in today's world, if you don't fit this formula, which I didn't because I missed an episode, oh, I failed. To whose eye? This is nobody else's project but mine. So this morning, I woke up and I immediately called my father. And my dad can tell that I've been in a ruck. He says, get up and do your podcast. Huh? My dad doesn't even listen to my podcast. And not that he doesn't support my truth, is also triggering for him because the father he is today is not the father he was back then. That is why he is not a listener. But he knows that I do it, and he's a very big supporter. And he can just tell from my face, from my energy lately, that I haven't been podcasting, that my depression has been winning. He told me last week, Mary, when's the last time you've been on a hike? I haven't been tending to that version of myself. I went on a hike. So I'm very thankful for someone to be able to push me in the direction that I need. Because when you're building something, when you're trying to build a community, you are going to be the first one in that community. You're going to be the only one in that community. And sometimes it is hard to be your own motivator. So today, I am here. I am pushing past all of the dark thoughts, all of the dark energies, past the whole of the trauma that has been lingering in my energy field. And I am alchemizing it by sitting here and taking up more time and more space to continue the story that I shut up before I even was allowed to tell. And that story is the cross-country road trip that I took with my mom when I was about 8, 9. This happened the summer before my 4th grade started. Like I've mentioned before, my mother opened up all these lawsuits. She got attention from an attorney in DC, got a letter from them, and instead of being normal, she decided to just pack us up in the car and drive us across country. At that point in time, my dad and my mom were separated. My dad had disappeared yet again, and my mom could never afford to keep us in that house. And so when it was time for us to get evicted yet again, she uprooted us, but not to another apartment or a homeless shelter in Vegas. She decided, I'm going to go find this attorney in Washington, D.C. So at the time, we had a very old Mercedes-Benz. The car was gold. My father had bought my mom this car, and there was a car accident that we got into one night, and the hood of the car was damaged. So we got a replacement on the hood, but the hood was white. So we're driving across country in this very old Mercedes-Benz gold vehicle with a white hood. The car was so old, it was one of those cars that had a telephone in the center console. Very old school car. And I just remember just already being embarrassed. Because look at this car. We look crazy. Not only does the car physically look crazy with the off-colored hood, the car is packed up to the ceiling in the back seat, and the trunk is full. So I have no place to move. I can't lean my seat back and forth. I'm just in the passenger seat, and my mom's in the driver's seat. And it's just the two of us driving from Las Vegas to Virginia. I am young. I can't drive. So my mom is doing this essentially by herself, and I'm her GPS. I'm her assistant in this. Talk about growing up quick. And we were also very broke. So along the way, we stopped at homeless shelters. So we would stop in every state, essentially, and find a homeless shelter to sleep in. And sometimes my mom would find comfort in whatever city we landed in. So in Arizona, we stayed for a few days before we left again. And I remember specific places like Arizona, Armadillo, Texas, some place in Tennessee, because those were the cities essentially that we stayed in longer. And my mom was so unstable. She would get to these cities, she would look around and be like, oh, this is nice. Maybe we'll stay here. And so as a child, I'm looking for any type of stability. So I can get attached quickly to the sentence, we're going to stay here. So I'm trying to find comfortability anywhere I can latch onto it. So it never stuck because eventually my mom would get back to the original plan, which is we got to get to DC to get to this attorney because I need help winning these lawsuits. And one memory that seemed to be the most traumatic of all throughout this road trip process is we were somewhere along some highway in one of the very many states we had to drive through, and it was very late. My mom was getting very tired, and there was nobody near, no city nearby, not in sight, and we had to stop to call it a night. She needed to rest. I needed to rest, quote unquote. And she decided to just pull over to one of those random gas stations that just happened to be in the middle of nowhere while you're driving across states. And it's super dark outside. There's a highway above us on the bridge. There's a main road in front of us. There's this huge gas station, and my mom parks at the very corner of this gas station and tells me we're going to be sleeping in the car tonight. And she gets our hygiene items, so like toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, my PJs, her PJs, and takes us inside of the gas station washroom. And we go through our bedtime routine in the public washroom at the gas station. I'm brushing my teeth in a public sink. I'm changing into my pajamas in the bathroom stall. I'm witnessing my mom do this. I'm witnessing her washing her face in this very public sink. I remember customers walking in and out and just watching us. Like, I could feel the wrongness of what was going on. And shame was all over my body, but this was my life. I did not know anything else. And I've been through extremes with my mom, right? All I know is extreme poverty with my mom. It's not like a shelter is much better, but at least there's a roof over your head and you're using a bathroom in a facility, not just in a random gas station off the highway. And I remember being in the car, so uncomfortable, freezing cold, because obviously we couldn't keep the car running. I don't even know how my mom had money to put gas in the car, to be honest. And it was freezing. The blanket that I had on obviously wasn't doing the job. And I couldn't sleep because this felt dangerous. It was dangerous, very dangerous for a woman and her child, her daughter, to be sleeping in the middle of nowhere in a car that could be easily broken into. So I didn't sleep that night. My mom kind of fell asleep because obviously she's exhausted. And I can even remember the story my mom was telling me before she went to bed that night, telling me about how she had a heart attack before and she lived through that. Like, my mom had lived through so much trauma. And even knowing like the scientific side of creating a baby inside of a woman who already has so much trauma in her nervous system, I was trauma embedded before I even seen the day of light. That's why my healing feels so much heavier and looks so much different than the people around me. But I create this storytelling because I know I'm not the only one with the story. I know I'm not. So I hope this reaches the right target audience, you know. Because in a sense, my inner child wants to hear or maybe meet other people that share the same beginning story and have been able to dig their way out of a hole. And the thing with healing is you revisit the same things with new set of eyes. And this is my first time in my adulthood that I have revisited this part of me. This is the first time in my adulthood that I've really done this amount of healing. And like I try to say time and time again, sometimes healing is just validation of just being able to have the floor and tell the story. For whatever reason, me telling what happened to me throughout that cross-country road trip, specifically this night of the gas station, how traumatic that was for me, has me feeling a little bit better. So thank you so much for listening to my expression. I hope you find comfortability in knowing that if you feel called to share something that doesn't seem safe enough to share, I hope you can find someone that will give you an ear to do so. I can't believe that a norm for me was to be in a car for an abnormal amount of hours, to be just stopping at homeless shelter after homeless shelter after homeless shelter, meeting all these people and feeling the energy of them feeling sad for us. Because what do you mean you just upped and moved with your daughter across country because you got a letter? As an adult, I can hear how crazy that sounds. And I just did not know how unstable my mother was. And I will always have a tainted vision of my mother with love. Because yes, I had a crazy upbringing with her, but I know she honestly could not have done better. Because she didn't know how to take care of herself. Imagine being ill and then all of a sudden you have to raise a child with no money, no help, none of that. Oh my gosh. With that being said, though, I cannot have a relationship with my mom because too triggering. Too triggering for a plethora of reasons. Being homeless as a child has done a number on my sense of security that I constantly have to work on. Constantly have to work on what scarcity is for me, what behaviors I do that come from a mindset of not having anything, a mindset of all I know is I might not have a home, so I might have to resort to this. So what can I do now to penny pinch or to stop that from happening again? It takes a lot of work, but I can confidently say I know I will never be in that place again because I am a completely different woman than from the woman who raised me. I just want to end this podcast with saying everyone's inner child deserves to be heard. And even though you might hear all these things that say, it doesn't matter where you come from, it matters where you end. You cannot end where you desire if you do not acknowledge where you come from. Okay? I send you love, light, strength, courage, and wisdom to get through whatever it is that you're dealing with. And it is okay to be human. If you find yourself falling off the bandwagon, pick yourself back up and hop on it again. Hop on it again until you no longer find yourself falling off. You will fail so many times until you win. Thank you so much for listening, as always, and I look forward to my next podcast episode, y'all. Thank you for growing with me. Until next time. Bye bye.